Welcome to Better in Theory podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Burdett, and today is our first episode. I am extremely nervous to be starting a podcast solo, to say the least. I told myself that I was never going to be chronically online, that I was not the kind of person to be in the spotlight or be doing this or be hosting a vlog. And here I am starting a podcast on my own. Why? To be honest, so many people told me that I should do a podcast, and I feel like I'm constantly having these conversations with my friends anyways. So I figured, why not show the world the conversations that I'm having on a day-to-day basis with my friends? Today, it is just going to be me. My schedule's a little crazy, which I'll get into later, but today it's just me jumping in. I had to film this last minute and I really wanted to get something out. So nobody was able to join except for my beautiful dog, Ventea. And so it'll just be me today as the intro and first episode. Let's start with why Better in Theory. Honestly, to very much so simplify it, there are so many things in life that sound so much better when you see them on social media or you hear about them or you're watching a show than they actually are. And especially on social media, so many people look at other people's lives and they think, wow, I'm so jealous. Look how great their life is. Why can't I do this? Anyways, there's so many things that sound better in theory than they are in reality. And I think that there's a lot of things, especially nowadays in modern day and age, that are glamorized that should not be glamorized, or that aren't as great as they sound when people are glamorizing them. So the goal in this podcast is to address things that fall into that category, like modern dating or ambition versus burnout, fitness versus not fitness, self-care and what falls into that category, living in different places across the world, prioritizing family or career. These are all things that fall into the debate of which one is better. And to be honest, one thing I've learned is it's really all perspective. It may be better to me to live in Florida, but my little brother, he does not like South Florida and he will never move here, which for me, I don't understand, but for him, it makes sense, you know? So there's so many things that seem better in theory than they are in reality. And I grew up in a household where my dad was always right and my mom was always playing devil's advocate. So I learned throughout my life to have a very strong stance on things, but also to be very open-minded and consider different perspectives. So I will always have a strong opinion, but I'm also the kind of person that even when a man breaks my heart, like literally shatters it, I will be like, well, in his defense. So you can expect a lot of devil's advocate, a lot of playing both sides when I'm having these conversations with my friends, with my family, with any of the guests that I bring on here. So I'm very excited to be jumping into some maybe controversial topics, maybe exciting topics, maybe boring topics to some of you. This podcast is not, let me be very clear, this is not a self-help podcast. My therapist and therapy is what you should go to for self-help, or maybe even like a life coach. But this podcast is not a self-help podcast. This podcast is to just chat about things openly with the rest of the internet that I chat about with my family and my friends and everyone else, because I love a good argument and I love a good debate and I love being open-minded. So having these conversations is very important to me, and I would love to hear everybody else's opinion. So as you guys are interacting, I'm sure I will respond to a lot of the things and that you guys are bringing up in the comments. I would love to talk hot topics. I do live in South Florida, so I'm sure there are some very hot takes on South Florida. I would love to talk about them. I will find the right people to come and talk about them and debate them with me, which would be super fun. I was born and raised in Colorado. Went to college in Colorado, SCO Buffs, worked for the football team and the basketball teams there. It was an amazing time in my life. And then after college, I was like in this lull. I was so unhappy and so tired of like everybody telling me what I should be doing. Like I should be doing this job and I should be living around my family or staying in Colorado to be around my family, and I should be saving and I should be doing this and this. And I was just so unhappy. And one day when my lease was up in Denver, I was like, screw it. I'm going to put in my 60 days. And so I put in my 60 days and I was working an in-person job in Denver. I was planning on literally moving up north and living with my family until I found something different. And about 4 weeks later, I found a remote job, or a job based in Denver that allowed me to be remote. And the week that I started that job, I jumped on a flight, spent 2 weeks in Florida checking things out. And 2 months later, I moved to South Florida by myself, knowing absolutely no one. My friends and a lot of the ones that you will meet, I met on Bumble BFF. So a lot of exciting stuff from that. I've met some characters that I'm sure I'll talk about later. But throughout that transition from Colorado and especially moving to Florida, I mean, the cultures are like a complete 180. Like when it comes to dating, work-life balance, the things you prioritize, the way you treat people, like everything was a 180. And there was a lot of me, like, I absolutely love South Florida. I will be here probably long term. But there were a lot of times where I was like, is this my personality? Like, which side do I really fall into? And there was a lot of evaluation going on that I had to kind of figure out, like, where do I fit and what are things that are like hard no's for me, even if they're okay in this. So a little about me. What's my bio? So I told you about my move to Florida. Work-wise, I have jumped around several times. I have worked in sports. I've worked in the restaurant industry. I've worked in the casino industry. I've worked in arts and entertainment. And now I've stuck with digital marketing for a few years now. In my current job, it is very high demand because it is a startup company, or it was a startup company. I don't even know if you can consider it anymore. But when I started, it was a startup, which has given me a lot of opportunity to jump in and really like create lanes for myself and the company, which has been amazing. I've gotten a ton of visibility with high value leadership at huge companies. And so I'm sure I will have a few guests from that. I will talk marketing, branding, digital media, social media, commercials. I love to tell people dumb it down and say that when you watch a Hulu ad, it could be me serving it to you. So that's my job, my day to day. I love marketing. I am very good at marketing and relationships, but I am not perfect at anything. I try really hard to be. I obsess over things, so I get very, very good at them. But I've never been like an absolute expert in anything. But I've dabbled in a lot of things. Really dive into a lot of things. Some of my other things that I've dove into, obviously marketing. I've taught myself graphic design, how to build websites, interior design. I'm really into fitness, and recently cooking and nutrition. Maybe we'll do a cooking episode. So I dabble in a lot of things. And my biggest issue is I never just like give one up. Like I don't like pick something else up. I just try to like manage all of them. So this is going to be a really hot take when we talk about ambition. Maybe that'll be my second episode is ambition, because I have some friends that are like maybe not so ambitious and probably think I'm super annoying. So yeah, that would be a good one. Anyways, like today, my schedule was literally I got up, walked my dog, went to the gym for 2 hours, worked all day. But also in between work, I was cleaning my house because I leave tomorrow, which when I drop this, I'll already be back in Florida. But I leave tomorrow to go to Colorado for a little event and work thing. And so then I was also having maintenance come fix my dryer because I have to do laundry. I was cleaning my entire house, cleaning my car, all of these things, while also I was like, oh my gosh, I have to film my first podcast episode. Otherwise, I'm literally not going to have a podcast episode for 2 weeks till I get back. Then I was rushing trying to find somebody to, like a friend, to be on my podcast. And finally, it was just so last minute that I was like, okay, I'm going to film the first one myself, even though that is absolutely terrifying for me. And the rest of my episodes, hopefully I will fill them. I mean, it may be like some that I do alone because I want to stay consistent and drop one at least every 2 weeks, if not every week. But I will try to have some very interesting guests, a variety of guests, friends, family joining. I do know some pretty cool people, so hopefully I can get them to join my podcast, but I don't know if they like me as much as I like them. So we will see. I've already had a couple of my friends refuse the podcast because they don't want to be on the internet like that. Stop licking my hand, please. Okay. Anyways, so what to expect from the podcast? Hopefully consistency. Hopefully just like, I mean, I'm sitting here chatting like I would chat with my friends, and that's the goal. To chat with you guys like I chat with my friends about different topics and things going on in my life. Even though I do not have like the coolest life, I do try to be pretty spontaneous and I'm all about experiences. Another thing that I think will come up in the podcast several times is I do have a ton of ambitious friends and I am a builder. Like, if somebody has an idea, I've got a business plan tomorrow. I love jumping in. I have a very entrepreneurial mindset. I love building out frameworks, things to do, stuff like that. And I think that people don't realize your 20s are literally make or break. Like, literally make or break. You have the opportunity to literally build any life that you want. And unfortunately for me, fortunately, hopefully, eventually in life, but unfortunately for me, I am a true believer that you can live a million different lives in one. And that's the goal, is for me to literally live a million different lives in one. So one day I may want to start a marketing company or be a marketing executive for Nike. The next day I may want to get my real estate license. That's something I have been considering. The day after that, I may want to start a property flipping company with my brother. And after that, I may want to go star in a movie. And the problem is I've dabbled in all of these ideas that I'm spitting off. This is not just me pulling these out of my butt. I have dabbled in all of these ideas, and these have all been discussions, and they're still on the table for me. The reason they are still on the table is because I'm in my 20s and I can literally rebuild my life whenever I want. I think so many people are so set on jumping into a career and pursuing something for an extensive amount of time, and they don't commit to doing what they want. They stick to something and then they're unhappy. So for my first episode, I wanted to address some of the things that I've run into in South Florida, and specifically being a woman, specifically being a woman, there are some things in South Florida that are really difficult. And I've been asked these kind of questions before. So I do have a list of questions. I'll probably just like rattle off and topics that we'll dive into. So sweet. Let's get into it. So I had questions. I'm probably going to change and just kind of like jump into my opinion and maybe play devil's advocate. And maybe my opinion switched on these for sure. So the first one is related to how affected you are by the opinion of others. I would say this is one I definitely struggled with, specifically when I first moved down here. When I first moved down here, one thing about South Florida is probably 90% of the people down here, if not 80% of the people, especially down in Miami, they're content creators. So the people that you meet, they have hundreds of thousands of followers, they look perfect, and in theory, they're better than you, in theory. But realistically, when you get to know them, and this is the same thing I realized when I was working in athletics, like these people are just as shitty as the rest of us. Like, just as shitty as the rest of us. They just have more money. I mean, to be honest, they have more followers, more money. It is what it is. But like, that doesn't make them better than us. And so I would say when I first moved down here, I really struggled. Like, I cared about what I was wearing and the designer bag that I had and how I acted, or if I was being weird, or if I got too annoying. Like, all these different things really mattered to me when I first moved down here. And now they honestly don't matter at all. So I would say if I had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, when I first moved down here, how people's opinions affected me, it was probably like a 10 when I first moved down here. No, that's a lie. I would say like an 8. And now I would say it's a solid 0. Solid 0. Also a lie. Maybe a 2. There are select few people that I really care about their opinion. And I think that's the next thing for me to like overcome is people have to accept you as you are. Like, you can't become somebody that's lovable by certain people. And so I would say that that level 2 is what I need to overcome. Is there somebody whose opinion secretly affects me a lot? That's a good one. I don't know if it's necessarily like a secret. I also am trying to think, like, is there anybody that I would like change myself for? I guess the guy that I was recently seeing, his opinion of me really impacted me more than probably anybody else in my life. And so I think with him, I really did like, I was always looking for like his approval and things, but not necessarily like the validation. I just wanted him to enjoy the things that I enjoyed. And even to this day, like, I literally was texting his friend the other day and I was like, I want to go out and I want to go do this, but I don't know if I should because I don't want yada yada to like think that I'm out doing this because I'm trying to like get my lick back or something. And so I would say their opinion like really has an impact on me. I don't know if there's anybody else that necessarily like has ever had that kind of impact on me. So culturally in Florida, there is a stigma around like how important your looks are and how important the way you present yourself is and what you're wearing and the status of who you are. All of those things are very important. And I would say in Colorado, those things weren't as important. And so living in Florida, there definitely, and a lot of women experience this, there is a pressure to do certain things, right? Like there's a pressure to get Botox. There's pressure to get a breast augmentation and a BBL. I mean, we literally live in BBL city. Like, I had never seen a BBL in my life moving from Colorado. Never in my life had I seen a BBL. I moved out here my first day in South Florida. I saw like 5. Like, it is BBL city down here. So I would say there is a ton of pressure to get certain things done, to buy certain things, to drive certain cars. I mean, literally South Florida is known for people renting cars for a couple hours just to drive to a dinner. And 90% of the cars you see are rented. And It's honestly a little insane. So I would say living in South Florida, there is a ton of performative pressure, like a ton of performative pressure. Um, and you have to realize that like being down in Miami, it's all fake. Like probably 70% of the nice cars and the luxury bags and like all the things that you're seeing, they are rented or they are fake or it is performative. And those people put all of that on a credit card. And it's very difficult not to like be tricked by that because you're constantly around like these luxury items and people being like very showy with them. Okay, so on that same note, the plastic surgery in Florida. This question was actually asked to me at a marketing event about 2 weeks ago. Was the plastic surgery rate, like, does that make me self-conscious or does it impact, like, do I feel like I need to go get a bunch of plastic surgery to fit in? And I would say I can see how it makes a lot of girls feel that way because when you're going to a Pilates class or you're going to the gym and this girl next to you has a BBL and you're like, gosh, my body's never going to look like that. It's difficult because you have to put the work in if you want that. Or you have to have a certain eye for like, oh, I don't want to look like that. And a lot of girls that don't know what to look for to like see if it's a BBL. I mean, there's like girls that get BBL accusations and it's real, right? But a lot of the times it's a BBL. And comparing yourself to that is very difficult. Especially if you're like new to the gym or just joining a friend or just going to Pilates or you're new to the area. I would say when I first moved down here, it's difficult because everybody down here is hot for sure. Everybody's hot. Way more attractive than the people in Colorado. But it's also because of the plastic surgery. And I would say, has that had a huge impact on me? Not really. I would say, yes, I want to like take care of myself more, but it also makes me really sad for people that feel like they have to have everything done, like, dang, you really aren't comfortable in your skin at all, or you really don't think that you could get fit on your own, which is probably a really hot take, right? Like some of these people just want it quick, right? To be honest, we are not against lipo in this house. We are not against it because I haven't had lipo, but it's a cheat code. And if you have the money and you want to look good, why not? I'm not against it, but is it my first choice? No. I would definitely probably try to work out first. But that's just my opinion, right? And it makes me sad that there's so many women that are reconstructing their entire bodies, face, their body to be happy and be comfortable in their own skin. I would say that's how the surgery rate has impacted me. And I would say it's almost impacted me to a point that I'm almost a little judgmental. And it's not necessarily like I don't look down on these people. I don't judge them for doing it. But I have to be judgmental so that I don't glorify it, right? As somebody that uses the gym not to be fit, but specifically to get rid of their anxiety and help with depression, me going to the gym every day, a lot of people idolize me going hard and spending 2.5 hours, 3 hours at the gym, or going to the gym in the morning, hitting a Pilates class, and coming back and jumping in the cold tub. A lot of people glorify that. And to be honest, it's good for me because it helps like my mental health, but that should not be glorified at all. Like I am literally train wrecking my body. Like I am not a professional athlete. I am not even training to be in something. And instead I am so hyper focused on working out and spending time in the gym. And it's really rough on my body. I would say it looks like self-care. And in theory, it is self-care, but it is really rough on my body. And in full transparency, it's gotten to the point where if I don't go to the gym for a few days or a few weeks, my family can literally tell. Not because of what I look like, but because I literally act a little crazy. So I would say me being so set on the gym and so dedicated to the gym probably looks like self-care, but it's not. It's definitely something that can be detrimental if I don't watch how I'm taking care of my body on top of it, which is why I go home and jump in the cold tub and why I use a massage gun. I mean, if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning. Do I feel strong social media pressure? Yes. If you guys looked at my TikTok is literally just a dump of BS. I also somehow in 2020, I posted a TikTok about like, imagine this being your ex, and it was like a glow up video, and I must have gotten all my followers to be males. And so now the only time my social media like actually like a video goes viral or a video gets attention, it's literally like gym pics or bikini pics, and it's strictly just who my following attracts and how I'm getting interactions from my current following based on what I posted in the past. And to be honest, the video in 2020, like, it wasn't like sexualized. It was just literally a glow up video that got a lot of male attention. And so now, unfortunately, like, my posts that get interactions is male attention. And so I would say, how does this make me feel pressured? It makes me feel pressured to post stuff that will get that kind of interaction. But I would say it also comes with like a guilt of having to post those things, right? Because like I'm also intelligent and I'm also funny and I also do a lot of things that women would enjoy, right? And I don't get that kind of interaction because of my current following. And so I post things that, yeah. Oh, this one's interesting. Are people in Florida really happier or are they just performative? I would say both. I would say the people that are in and out of Miami, like in and out, like they're just here to visit or they're here to film content. And it's also like who you're around and what you prioritize. I would say the people that want to be here long term are happy, not performative. I would say the content creators, the OnlyFans models, a lot of that is just like being in Miami to be in Miami. I think a lot of the Miami area is just being in Miami to be in Miami. It's really amazing to meet people in Miami that are truly there because they love Miami culture. They love like 90s Miami, the Cuban vibe. Like that is so sick. And those are some of the coolest people I've met. But there is a huge population in Miami that's literally just there to like be in Miami, be part of the content creators, be around the fake money. Yeah. So I would say it's probably 50-50. Maybe like 60-40. And I would say 60% performative. Yeah. But I will say me personally, I am so much happier. I'm so much happier in Florida. I don't know how you can wake up every day and walk outside. I mean, it's raining right now, but I don't know how you can wake up every day and walk outside and the sun hits you, the humidity, and not just like glow. I love it, but to each their own. Going along with being performative. Pretty privilege. Is it overstated? Or is it actually a thing? I would say pretty privilege is definitely a thing. Like, definitely a thing. The issue in South Florida is that everyone is beautiful. Like, literally, I don't think I have walked the streets and been like, ugh. Like, everybody in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca, they are all beautiful. So, is pretty privilege a thing? Absolutely. But there's levels to this shit. There's pretty privilege that gets an old sugar daddy's attention. There's pretty privilege that gets you pulled into a rapper section at the club. There's pretty privilege that gets your entire trip paid for. It really just depends on who you run into, honestly, and what you're willing to deal with. I have friends that were sugar babies. I have friends that date rappers. I have friends that their parents pay for everything. I think it really does depend on what you're willing to put up with. But specifically in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, in Boca, I have never experienced in Colorado the way men are willing to spend money on females. Me personally, I'm very independent. I don't like taking money from people. So that's been a big issue for me. I prefer to buy people things. I don't like to take gifts or money. But the way that men spend money on females out here, that is different. And I would say that comes from pretty privilege. It also comes from women's expectations in Miami. There is a very equal market out here, if that makes sense. In the Miami area, there are women that want to get paid, and there are men that want to pay them. That's all I'm going to say. Before I moved to South Florida, I would say there were so many things that my family judged, that I kind of fell into that now I really appreciate. So like, I know this was a topic earlier, but everybody down here is performative, yes. Happy, yes. But performative, yes. One thing about Florida is people are performative. And so people don't leave the house looking like trash. I mean, they literally leave the house looking their best every time they leave their house. If I leave the house looking terrible, I'm going to Publix at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm not leaving the house literally any other time looking like a bum. Like, I have to look my best. And that was one thing I always judged because it was like performative, but also you never know who you're going to run into, right? This is South Farm, but I grew up in the country, and who were you going to run into? Like maybe your ex from high school, maybe, versus out here, I could go to Cava and run into Drake. Like, it's so different. So everybody looks beautiful out here. They are very focused on what they look like when they leave the house. And that was one thing my family was very judgmental of. So I became judgmental of before I moved out here. And now I really appreciate that. And going along with that, I also really dogged on like Botox and filler and microneedling and all those different like self-care cosmetic things. And to be honest, I love them. I used to dog on them all the time. Look, my forehead doesn't move. My eyebrows are tatted, so I don't have to wear makeup. Like literally, I wake up in the morning and I look like this. I used to judge people for that because I was like, ugh, why would you waste money on that? I wake up every day looking like this because I do my lashes. My hair, I have a shark that blows it out when I wash it. Like, it's so easy for me to just get up and go in the morning and look beautiful. And that's because of things that I used to judge before I moved here. Simply stated. So there are a few things out here that I definitely judged before I moved out here and actually turned out to be better than I expected. A few things that I did not judge hard enough was the fakeness. I mean, everybody is like trying to throw money around and pretend they're rich, and 90% of them are not rich. I would say that's one thing that I didn't judge hard enough. I really did when I moved out here. I thought it was genuine. I thought these people had this money, but they don't. Or I think another thing was a lot of the people my age, if they're not content creators, they have very wealthy parents. And so that was something that was really tough for me moving down here, was not understanding that like these people are not making that money on their own. They have help. And so when I would get like, oh, well, I don't have those things, that was very difficult. So lastly, what's one thing about South Florida that sounds better in theory, but in reality isn't? The people. And not the people in the aspect of, I don't like the people. I love the people. Everybody here is so much nicer than they were in Colorado. It seems like if you want to move to a city, it seems like there's so much opportunity here in South Florida. And so a lot of the times it sounds better to have all of these rich and famous people around you and the opportunity. But it's only really better in theory, because in reality, there's so many freaking people here. The traffic is insane. But on top of it, like, the opportunity is there, but everybody here is looking for the opportunity. So a lot of the times you're competing with people that are willing to do anything for that opportunity. So you have to have a lot of self-respect to be down here. Otherwise, there are a lot of people that I know or I've heard of that get themselves into some like really sticky situations because they just don't have the self-respect, and everybody's looking for the opportunity. And unfortunately, the opportunity is looking for who's willing to give things up for it. So I would say the people are great, but you have to quantify what you're willing to do for opportunity around those networks and what networks you're around. I mean, not to throw this out because I haven't met these kind of people. Well, I guess actually I've met a couple people that I've had to like completely like cut off because they were expecting something else for opportunity. Like, for example, there was this one producer that wanted a relationship with me, and I told him from the jump that it was business only. And when I told him I had a boyfriend, which I did not, but when I told him I had a boyfriend, he like snapped. He was like, "You only wanted me because I was famous and rich." And I was like, no, I told you this was only a business opportunity. But anyways, regardless, I mean, down here, you obviously had the diddler. So, I mean, you can get in sticky situations if you're not respecting yourself. And so you have to just watch out for that and be very careful. Because growing up in like Colorado, like everything's so small, like nothing seems like a threat, versus in Florida, like they can have you in Cuba in an hour. So you have to watch out for that. And yeah, so is Florida better in theory? I don't know. I think it depends on the person, and it depends on what you're looking for. I personally am so happy here, and I love debating why Florida is great. These are some of my opinions on some things that a lot of people struggle with, like the performativeness of Florida. And I think in order to stay in Florida and actually develop a life, you have to be very true to yourself, and you have to be doing a lot of maturing, because if you fall into this like industry searching, content searching mindset, it can be very dangerous. But it can be very fruitful if you know where you're going. So, see you next time.